Alrighty, so Magic Finding 3.2 update. So they revamped the Deadeye Ascendancy class, and that means that they added this really OP mechanic called Tailwind. So basically what happens is for the amount of abilities that you use, it multiplies your essentially character speed, and that also means movement speed. So when you stack a ton of evasion, it multiplies that move speed, and so you end up getting a whole ton of move speed, way more than you would get when you were a raider. So I decided to change a few things up. I'm not going to make this a crazy long guide like the one that I did before. I'll include that one in the description. That includes like the mechanics and essentially the bare basics and all the kind of things that you want to do when you're magic finding. This is just to kind of go over the character and any changes that I made, and this is basically the final version that I have. And I'll go over a couple things that other people do that's a little bit different. So this is a legacy character, but there are things that you can do. So like item quantity doesn't exist, so you wouldn't be using it. You would be using something like damage on full life, or you would be using added cold damage. And so, I mean, if you have this, obviously use it. If you don't have it, don't use it. Just use more damage. I have a 6-link barrage setup. A lot of people don't use this anymore. I think it's really nice when you steal a few headhunter buffs. You essentially kill the boss in like a second or two with barrage. Like I said, you don't really need it when you're magic finding because you're usually doing lower tier maps, but it's nice when you're doing bosses, so I keep it in. So you know, why not? So I got rid of the Legacy Victor's Flask. So the reason why I was using it was because Instant Leech makes it so that you don't get killed by most things except for like one-shots, but at this point I don't care if I die. I've reached the level that I want to with this character. There's nothing more that I really want to do with it, so I had to spec to get the Life Leech there and Vol Pact here so that I keep my life up most of the time. Jewels are mostly the same. I got Resist Jewels here, Resist Jewels here, and I got this one here to get a little bit of move speed and a little bit of damage. What else? Yeah, you grab this stuff, you grab this. This makes it so that you move even faster. Everyone gets pretty much this same tree. A lot of people, when they get their Lionize setup, they only grab this. I like to go this way and grab this because you get the Thieves Craft's Intelligence there for this. I run Wrath. A lot of people, what they do is they run Grace and they drop their Stibnite Flask. The reason why I don't like this is because the reason why people don't use their Stibnite is because they're using a Life Flask. This build doesn't need a Life Flask. If you die, I mean, so what? You're magic finding. If you're in hardcore, then yeah, you're going to use Grace, you're going to get rid of the Stibnite Flask, and you're going to use probably you're going to put the Freeze and Chill on something else, and you're going to put Bleed Removal on the flask that you're using. And so that way, when you have patches of chilled ground, you know, with the flask uptime being at 100%, you don't ever have to worry about chilled ground. Yeah, you're going to be using Goldworms, you're going to be using Sedemas. I got 2 Venters, one 10 quant, one 9 quant. So one of the big changes is Bisco's got nerfed so that the top is now 50% increased quant of slain normal enemies. That's a huge nerf to the item. So this, if you don't have, you know, a legacy one, just use a shaped necklace with whatever stats that you need, a little bit of damage, and you know, 8 to 10 quantity on it. You can also find a talisman that has quantity on it. Those are a little bit tougher to come by, and you know, they're going to be expensive, but you know, if you're maximizing your quant, this character has, let's see here, 112 of quantity, and then plus the 15 when I slay frozen enemies, which is pretty much all the time. And so I'll show you a little bit of gameplay just to kind of show you what it looks like. It's pretty much your run-of-the-mill thing. So right there is the Tailwind buff. So I'll go over a little bit of the Ascendancy choices. They're pretty much always going to be the same. Some people go one branch, I go the other because I like the AoE on Herald of Ice. So yeah, this is just Blood Aqueducts. You're not going to be in any danger here, but this is pretty much what it's going to be like in most of your maps. So yeah, if you steal a speed buff, the thing is the tooltip here is not going to show, so I'll pull it up. This is my path of building. So if you don't have any skills used, with everything up, with onslaught, your full frenzy charges, and all your flasks up, you're gonna have at least 300 move speed. If you actually manage to use 10 skills in the 4 seconds, you have a top end of almost 340. There's a couple things that I can do to make this a little bit faster. I could get a 30% move speed Quicksilver. I've just been too lazy to buy one. But yeah, this is basically it. The reason why you use 2 jewels with resist on them is because when you're magic finding, you're using all unique items, and aside from Goldworm and Queen of the Forest, you're not going to really get much resists. And in order for Venters not to be too expensive, if you're looking, for a good quantity item finding rings, Venters is a really good option. But the higher the resist, the more astronomical the cost is. So I bought each of these for 2 exalts, and I think that was a pretty good deal. And the other thing is, like, at this level of item find, so this is probably like the typical setup, right? Being at 69 plus 15, you're already hitting a point of diminishing returns. So if you don't have like the resist that you need, you can just take off Eventers, right, and then put on a ring with better resists, and that would be totally fine. It's just like, this is the character that I'm using to like completely max out my item find. So a lot of people, the ascendancy choice that they make is fast and deadly because they have accuracy issues. It's pretty good damage. I can show you on the path of building here, when you switch from this, right, so right here my barrage is at 926. If you grab this, 943, right, so it's basically like a 20k DPS increase. The reason why I use endless munitions is because my hit chance is already quite high, so that accuracy is good enough where I won't miss. But the 50% increased area of effect, when you combine that with a dying sun, the AoE of your Herald of Ice is gigantic, so that actually improves clear speed more than the alternative. A lot of people like it because the mirror arrow cooldown recovery is pretty cool, but I didn't find myself needing it. With the sheer move speed that you have, I mean, are you watching this right now? You activate your Vol Haste, and the additional arrow actually does kind of help for clearing. If you ever run into a tough rare, you just barrage it down really quick, and the additional arrow helps barrage scale quite a bit from that element. And the other thing is, while you're using Headhunter, a lot of mobs, they have additional accuracy, so you'll never need it. So this, if you have the Headhunter, grab this. If you don't have the Headhunter and you're using something else, use Fast and Deadly. So some of the changes with the flask. So usually the guide before, I had an Alchemist Jade Flask of reflexes. You don't need that anymore because you're using a Stibnite, and so the Stibnite will help you. So like I said before, a lot of people in hardcore, or if you have enough damage, they take off Wrath, and so that means that you don't need as much int. So you take off a passive skill, you go up this way instead, and you path like this. You save a few nodes, and you can get some damage elsewhere. And then there's a Watcher's Eye that while you have Grace up, you get 15% more move speed, which is then multiplied by Tailwind as well. So those are some of the things that you can do. This is pretty much the final version. I've had a lot of fun with it. I haven't been playing Path of Exile all that much, so there hasn't been that much to do lately, but once the new league comes, I'll probably make another item find character in the new league. Oh yeah, pro tip, you can get a Haku weapon that gives plus quality support skills, and you can level up Enlighten and Powers quite quickly with your magic item setup. And if you hit 3, you get okay whatever, and if you actually Vol Corrupt it to level 4, you make multiple exalts. So usually it happens like 1 in 8 or so. So you need a little bit of luck to hit the level 4, but it's a pretty good return if you ever hit those. So that's why I always have this on the weapon swap. It's a really good idea. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't bore you with too many repeated details, but yeah, have fun item finding.